Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Capital Convos. We have the main man, Mark, here with us as well today.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Introducing Capital Convos.
One of the main things we did mention last time was the Biden and Trump feud going on, especially the elections as well. And as we all know, the main news is, and the word going around, is Biden has won.
I mean, it's a bit of an interesting situation we're in at the moment, especially with Trump trying to sue basically Biden for electoral fraud. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it's just, as you said last week or the other week, about how Trump is just a bit of a character in itself. So what's your views on obviously Biden, because obviously that's going to affect the markets either way. So for me personally, it's going to obviously affect it negatively, and we'll get into that in a bit. But obviously, what's your views on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe exactly the same as well. As we mentioned last time, Trump is more of like a businessman. He knows what he's doing in terms of economic growth, whether it's for himself, whether it's for the country. He kind of knows what he's doing, and we have seen the data, ever since he was in power as well, that things were on a very positive note. But Biden hasn't got too much of a business background compared to Trump. He's definitely not in the billions anyway compared to Trump. Hasn't got an empire like Trump has. So when it comes down to economic growth, I don't think he has the slightest clue on how to grow out of the situation that we're currently in, and obviously we are in a bit of a crisis right now. The whole world is in a COVID crisis right now. We're biologically fighting this virus right now. So me personally, I don't think the economy will boom as it should be, to be honest. What about yourself?
I mean, because myself, I'm obviously a fundamental trader. I look at data more than anything else, because I feel like data doesn't lie. So obviously, we're not going to show it now, but obviously on Excel, or the way I chart up data is obviously since the last 6 to 8 months, the data has just been all over the place. Money supply, massive increases. So obviously, even the central bank's balance sheet, debt to the ratio, and even the GDP to debt ratio, I think it's about 140% at the moment. And obviously, that means it's enormously inflated. And obviously, from that, with big inflation, comes massively decreased in the currency anyway. And obviously, the GDP obviously went from very negative to very positive very, very, very quickly. Space of a quarter. And obviously that would suggest that there's a lot of inflation, when obviously too much inflation is bad. So you obviously want it in the Goldilocks zone. But obviously, because the data is so skewed to the inflationary side, I'm not sure, to be honest, how Biden is going to get out of that situation. As you said, he's not a businessman, so he has no idea, or not a good idea, about how he's going to get out of that enormously inflated debt. Because obviously the government's debt is through the roof. So getting away from that situation is going to be damn near impossible for him.
Very tough. I agree. There's also rumors going around that there's some sort of mix-up in terms of the numbers as well. What do you think about that? I'll give you my view quickly as well. I think that these are counted up properly. Trump isn't sitting there, or Biden isn't sitting there with his team counting it up and crossing out numbers, and Trump isn't sitting there crossing out numbers and ticks and whatever. It's properly done. These people who count these votes up know what they're doing. They've been counting votes for the last 24 years or so. They choose people. This is America, for example. This is America, for God's sake. Like, they don't trust anybody, so they have to make sure whoever is counting those votes, they have legit. To trust, are completely legit.
So obviously you mentioning the votes being counted correctly. Obviously, I agree with you. So obviously, in terms of bringing that back to something with the dollar, I feel that could obviously weaken it, because there's still uncertainty there. Obviously, Biden is elected, and obviously, as you said, as I just explained, it's not going to go too well for the dollar. So obviously, with the election still underway, as per se, the dollar is not going to do too well, even a stock market, to be fair.
There's still a couple of I think about 3 states that still are yet to put in their vote count as well. But still shows that Biden is going to win. You know, Trump is pretty far off, not very far. You know, he's still pretty close, but not close enough to win this whole election all over again. And if he does win, there possibly would be some major rioting taking place. Could there be rioting with Biden in place, you know? Because Trump knew what he was doing when it came down to jobs, employment, Every time that he was in power for the last 4 years, employment has increased gradually, Even during the COVID crisis, while they were still in lockdown, a lot of people had lost jobs, And there was a time where the whole world's economy was coming down. But how did he still manage to have a very successful growth in terms of employment? Because obviously he knows what he's doing. He's going to make sure that some of these large companies can still contribute towards the economy. Some of their employees can still contribute towards their economy. Bring them back into work. The essential workers, for instance, start upping their pay so that the tax can be upped a little bit as well. It kind of goes hand in hand. When it comes down to what we were mentioning about the GDP and inflation, for instance. Inflation is a very good topic, in fact. I do agree, but it comes hand in hand with interest rates.
100%.
So if inflation rises too much, interest rates have to drop. But they haven't dropped for quite some time. What do you think of that?
I think they're around 0.1 off the top of my head. And obviously even the 10-year Treasury yield as well is at all-time lows. Obviously that is still trying to encourage people to spend more in the economy. But obviously because of the virus and the unemployment still relatively high in comparison to the average, I'm not sure if that will cause too much inflation. Obviously what they did with the QE and stuff is the Fed completely pumped the market. It wasn't from a consumer's perspective who pumped the inflation, which ideally you want for sustained growth, but obviously it was all driven by the Fed by doing QE and lowering interest rates to like 0.1, which is obviously trying to encourage inflation, but nobody wants to spend no money. Obviously you wouldn't if you didn't have a job or you was on furlough or whatever.
Of course.
It's still relative to the UK as well. Governments, the benchmark rate for the UK is still very low. Interest rates are near the same. And again, it's still probably just going to do the same. I'm not sure obviously how Biden's going to get around that with in terms of, as you said, with Trump, the employment, but we'll have to see. It'll be interesting.
Well, with Biden, he's more of like what they say is a people's person. I heard he's a bit of a children person as well. But we won't go into that over here. Keep that behind closed doors. But anyway, he's got his head in other places basically, and not on the right path is what I see. So it could be pretty negative, especially during this time for the US, 100%. Is what I do believe. Even though stocks went up, they boosted up because panic buying from investors, but these panic buyers made some good money. So that's only the best time to be panic buying is if you're panic buying actual stocks. During a crisis or something like that. But if you're panic buying toilet rolls, you've had it. Your head's in the wrong place. But these have gone up over the last few days as well. These stocks have just panic jumped in fact. Gold has dropped. A few other assets like safe havens have dropped as well. Swiss franc, Japanese yen. What do you think of those?
I mean, obviously that was fueled very hard with obviously the vaccine. And obviously because obviously people ask me on Instagram about why did gold fall because the vaccine came out. And obviously you have to think about it from an investor's perspective about what if you was an investor right now and you had, let's say, 10 million, you would want to be a risk-off feeling. So risk-off basically means taking money out of stocks and into like safe havens like gold, because obviously the returns are not as great as stocks. So they want to at least still make some money because they're investors at the end of the day. But for me, obviously, when the vaccine comes out, that gives investors and institutions that positive mindset that maybe the economy is going to recover. So they come out, they pull the money out of gold, which obviously causes it to drop. and into stocks, which is obviously what we saw with that big increase in stocks and that big decrease in gold. Obviously, the correlations only happened very recently. Generally, you know, as we were discussing earlier about how gold is always going to go up anyway, because obviously it's a safe haven asset at the end of the day. But to be honest with you, it will be, I mean, I personally feel like it would go much higher. But it's just more of a patience game at the moment. Obviously, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree as well. You know, gold is like a limited asset. Yeah, if we put like all the electronics to the side, there's only a set amount of gold that you can extract from the ground. Yeah, there's only you can't create gold out of nowhere. So it can't be inflated. It's an asset. Yeah, it's very expensive, and it's only going to become more expensive. Yeah, as the demand for it increases. So it's just that demand going forward is going to drive the price up slowly, which has driven the price up to where it's at today. You know, even looking at the numbers today, around 1860, 1870, I think even yesterday it did push up close to the 1900 level back again. I did see that. So, you know, even around this level where it's at, it's still high compared to like 2 years ago. You know, 1300 an ounce compared to 1900 an ounce. No matter how high or low it dropped, you're still profitable. 4 years later, aren't you? 3 to 4 years later, you are still profitable no matter what. Same with, you know, as we mentioned last week with crypto. I see like very, very similar correlations between them. Obviously, in the markets, they're not very correlated because one is a safe haven and one is one of the most volatile assets on the planet. You know, being a crypto backed by nothing, just by people. But at the same time, you know, I see Bitcoin being the gold of the internet because there is only a limited amount. They can't be inflated, and as time comes along, there's going to be less and less and less being pumped into the economy of Bitcoin as the halvings take place as well. There'll be less being mined, and as it comes to an end by 2040, every single one of them will be mined. Once it's at that point, that is when we will see some silly peaks, whereas gold is still being mined out of the ground in different parts of the world until those areas start to dry up. No more gold, there becomes a drought. Then obviously we will see a further increase in gold again. But now, being a risk asset, a risk-off asset, should we call it? This is probably one of the best times to keep your money in gold, don't you think?
100%.
I think when people jumped into stocks, it was a bit of a panic thing, like I just mentioned as well. It was a bit of a panic buy. They don't want to end up losing out on that growth. And you know what? They actually did really well. Stock markets jumped massively. You know, this whole week they've been, you know, rising. In fact, Monday was the biggest rise I ever saw. For years on the stock market especially. And we don't trade stocks because of the fact that Forex, we can make a lot more money from the foreign exchange market and the crypto market. But this week you could have milked it from the stock market.
But the thing is, obviously, I find with obviously stocks and even Forex and even gold, people, they FOMO. So they'll see stocks go massive. They see that big jump on Monday, and then they feel like they still need to keep buying. And obviously, yes, it may work, but obviously you got to remember the economy. Obviously, at the moment, the stock market isn't the economy itself. That's what people get confused about, is they see the economy so high, or like the stock market at near all-time highs, and they think the economy is back to normal again, and they still think they can just keep buying and buying and buying, when in reality I don't think it's gonna. It may go higher, but not as fast as obviously when Trump was in power.
I agree as well. You know, on Monday, in fact, it was a bit late, but somebody did ask me, should I buy into stocks? Which one should I buy into? And I was like, you're kind of late. Like, leave it for today. Wait for the next drop to take place and come back in on a later retracement a few weeks or months down the line. Until you get more confirmation that it will go further. So people, if you are looking to invest into the stock market or any kind of market, you have to be educated in the field that you're looking to invest in. You always want to be safe. You don't want to end up putting your money into something you know nothing about, because it 100%. Could potentially go the opposite way for you. It's all about timing. Don't you agree?
100%.
Yeah, timing is so important. We've even got this, sand timer here because we don't trust digital clocks nowadays. But yeah, you know where I'm coming from. People used to use like sundials back in the day, and they worked. But one question I've always wondered is, the person who invented time, how did he know what time it was?
Yeah.
At that very point.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
that is an unanswered question that will go on forever. In fact, if you viewers know this, type it in the comments box below, and we will mention this on the next conversation. If you were right or wrong, go into research on this. But will we ever know? No.
We'll see. But obviously, with stocks, I personally don't know too much about it, but I always invest into something I have a good idea about, because whoever I speak to, and when they ask me, like, I think somebody asked me yesterday, what stock should I buy? And I was like, I'm not going to tell you, because obviously my knowledge may be different to your knowledge, and you put in faith everything into what I say, and you lose, it's going to come back and bite me.
Just going to blame you, right?
Exactly. So obviously with the stock market, especially Forex, it's a bit of a sticky one, but with stocks especially, you need to invest into something you actually know about. So whether you know about technology or cars or green energy, invest into something you actually know about.
Absolutely.
There's no point in following the masses or the sheep, going to one thing. Like when we saw that big rise in Tesla stock, and people were still buying at the highs, and now it's obviously tripled down.
Nothing.
They just knew nothing about. They just followed what everyone else was doing.
Electric industry, how they've created their new battery systems. Like, people don't know about this, but they're just like, oh yeah, it's going up. Let me just put money into it.
It's like Bitcoin.
It's like Bitcoin. Some people bought in at like 20,000,
and now
they've
just basically
lost half their money.
Yeah,
if they're still holding,
which I doubt. I wouldn't hold it from if I bought it at 20,000 down to whatever it fell to.
And it's just like part of the bandwagon that people are going on. It's FOMO, like you mentioned. If you want to elaborate on that point, it's that people's emotions.
So obviously FOMO is a very, very big thing especially in the retail side, which we'll get into in a second. But obviously in the retail trading, obviously I'm a retail trader because I'm not a professional yet, but obviously from the retail side, especially when I'm teaching people, I see all my students sometimes they're complaining, I missed this gold drop, or I missed GBP USD buys, and I always tell them, wait, there's always going to be a pullback. There's no point in just rushing into a trade, especially with Forex, because you can lose very, very quickly in the Forex market.
You can lose all your money.
Literally. So obviously I always tell them just to be patient. Maybe the retracement will happen in a week, 2 weeks, but don't just rush into a trade. You need to actually do your research as to why it's going up. Maybe something happened in the UK, and that is obviously more positive than the US, so that will drive the price up. But with the FOMO aspects, I think the main thing about FOMO is, especially when I was learning, is I would enter a trade, let's say 0.1, and then the price goes really high, and I was always say to myself, I wish I always put a 0.5 or I wish I put a standard lot. And then you have that confidence that you're so good, and then the next trade you'll put a standard lot and then you'll lose. So obviously this is a continuous cycle that I always see every single time, and obviously with my students I always draw that in not to FOMO.
Exactly.
So obviously with yourself, obviously you've been trading for 6 years now. 6 years. So obviously how did you deal with the FOMO aspect?
It's like a hard lesson that you have to learn that gets built inside you. So every time you use FOMO, it always has gone against me. But maybe it's gone on my favor about 5 to 10% of the time, but other than that it's always gone against me. And the quicker you plant it in your head, the quicker you'll get over the FOMO aspect. Like people are saying to me, this happens all the time as well, nearly every day. Is there another trade I can jump into because I missed that move? And I'm like, there could be. There's always trades that you can jump into. It may not be right now. It doesn't have to be right now. Timing, there is no timing in the markets, right? They don't care about timing. They don't care about where you are in the world, who you are. If it's going to rise, it's going to rise. All right? Most of the time it's during the volatile periods. During session times. Whereas, some people just want to jump into it because they've missed out on the previous move, and then they see other people have made money on that previous move, and it starts hurting them. Yeah, that why didn't they catch that move? So they jump into another move straight after, just because of that FOMO aspect. The emotions have got the better of them, and then they've lost. So I've experienced it so much, not just with myself, but now I see it with other people happening, because it's completely deleted off my mind. If I miss a trade, I really couldn't care less. I'm just sit back and laugh at it and wait till the next one turns up.
So obviously, for the viewers, what would you suggest you would do? So let's say you went back 6 years now and you have the knowledge you know now. What would you tell yourself?
It would be this one phrase: there will always be another day. And there will always be another trade. But going back to that one phrase, there will always be another day.
100%.
Every dog has its day. Maybe today isn't your day. Tomorrow will be, as long as you're in control. And it all comes back down to discipline. In fact, every successful person that has hit the multi-millions and billions and have held it there for multiple years as well, have all got the same kind of trait with them, and that is discipline. Can you discipline yourself hard enough to not jump into it?
Makes sense.
And that's how you delete FOMO, to be honest. It's all about mind control. And if you're, it all depends on discipline. Like I said, the more disciplined person will be more successful over the long term. The less disciplined person may make quick money here and there, but they will never be successful long term. I've seen people trading for the last 2 years, 3 years, even though that's still a short time to be trading for. They think to themselves it's a long time. And they're like, what, I've been in here for like 2-3 years and I'm still not doing it. Why am I still not at the level where I should be at? It's because of the discipline. It's nothing to do with the markets. It's nothing to do with the strategy you're bringing on board. I was even mentioning this to our cameraman as well. Every strategy works. Are you disciplined to stick to the strategy?
Because we trade completely different.
Obviously,
I trade smart money and fundamental data. You trade completely different to that.
I also trade fundamentals. I firstly look at fundamentals, and then I will base my technicals around that fundamental, bias. So if fundamental bias is saying, it's negative, I will not be looking for buys. Even if I've got all my setups ready for a buy, I will keep that.
I think that's
I'll go on to the next one.
Big mistake that a lot of traders use. They buy the pullbacks when you should be selling the impulses. So I've been a victim of that, especially when I started, that I always wanted, again, to be in the market to try and make money. But even if you're trying to buy a pullback, it may work 10-15% of the time, but it's long term, if you think about it, it's not going to. Especially with that, you shouldn't be doing that.
I agree, definitely. So once again, it all comes back down to discipline. I've mentioned this in a few other videos that I've done on my channel as well, so you guys can check that out. But discipline is something that, as long as we're working on every single day, even as little as the first thing you do in the morning, which is wake up on time. If you can wake up on time and you're disciplined enough to wake up at that time, no matter how tired you are, no matter what is going on, if you are disciplined enough to wake up at that time, you've already stepped forward in some sort of way towards disciplining yourself for other tasks you have the rest of the day.
100%.
And that's what I always do every single day as well. Like, I'll snooze my alarm once, maybe twice, but no matter what happens, I'll never press stop and just go back to sleep, because I know shit still needs to get done. Right. But moving forward with the retail trading industry, as we mentioned, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth on that right now as well. Retail trading industry is where we all started off, in fact.
Everyone,
I've been in it for 6.5 years. You've been in it for
2.5 years now.
Oh, wow.
So not as long as you. So you've probably seen a lot more.
I even saw the last elections as well.
Exactly. So what's your obviously views on the retail side? Because obviously now you're on the professional side. Seeing it from a different perspective, what do you see from that?
So retail side, so retail's traders, or retail industry of trading anyway, no matter what it is, it could be crypto, it could be foreign exchange, it could be stocks, no matter what you're trading, retail industry always promotes that everybody can do it. But me now being on the professional side of things, I understand that not everybody can.
It's 100%.
Like we going back to that same thing I mentioned of discipline, not everyone is disciplined. Only about 2 to 5% of the population is disciplined, but that is why 2 to 5% of the population are the most successful people.
Yeah.
So with the retail trading industry, we kind of do need retail traders in the markets who are losing.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, making these bad mistakes over and over again, because then there's more liquidity for us to grab once we want to make our bigger moves. Does that make sense? But how do you see retail industry today?
I mean, this subject's a love. Obviously, I feel even in retail trading, especially, there's a lot of conflicts of interest. So obviously, we was discussing it earlier about the brokers. We'll get onto that in a second. But there's a lot of people out there, especially online, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. They just want to take your money. So obviously, they may teach you absolute basics and charge you £1,000, when in reality, you can go online and learn that
for free.
Yeah, literally for free.
Babypips.com for those of you who are looking for it.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
It's a very good start. But I mean, so the brokers anyway, because I know you've worked with brokers a lot of times, and their aim isn't to make you money. They want to take your money so they can make themselves bigger, essentially.
At the end of the day, they are a business.
They
100%. Want to make money. And, whether they're making money from even the 2 to 5% who are doing really well, they still make money on them through spread, through commissions, through charges, through swap. Yeah. Doesn't have to essentially mean those people have to lose for these guys to make money, because they're on something called the A-book, which we could go into depth about, but that's completely different. So obviously those people are on something called an A-book, which they're still making money. They're allowing them to make money as well, and they're just making money off the backs of them. So either they're copying what they're doing, or just adding their charges on top. So no matter what, they leave your successful traders to it, and they just make money as you keep making money as well. But then there's the other side of the people who keep losing money. That makes a bit of money and losing money.
B-book side.
That's the B-book side. That's like the casino side of things. As you know, casinos, house always wins. There are a few gamblers that make it big, but those are only a very, very few. Exactly like this industry as well. Everyone wants to kind of make money from it, but they don't understand the main aspect behind it, how to make money. And once again, it all comes back down to discipline. If you're not disciplined enough, you will lose to the broker, and the broker will happily take that money. But if you are disciplined, they'll help you make money. In fact, they'll make money off you. Rather more than anything, they want you to make more money, in fact, because then they're copying your trades onto their other trading accounts. So they're making extra more money. So they're always in a win-win situation, exactly like a casino as well. Casinos are always in a win-win situation. They live off people's greed, however. So what do you think of that?
So, I mean, greed is a very big killer for retail traders, especially because even the brokers, when they promote leverage, so they'll tell you 1 to 100, 1 to 400 leverage. That means for every pound you trade, you can take up to £400 of risk, which is crazy if you think about it, because you'll be paying so much out in spreads, rollover, essentially swaps. You'll be paying out, I think I'd done something on an Excel spreadsheet about the difference in leverage. I think I was teaching it in one of my videos about how even I'd suggest to a lot of people the max leverage you should go for is 1 to 30. That means for every pound you trade, you can take up to £30 of risk. When you see your trading accounts at 1 to 400 risk, it means you can trade a £250 account and use a standard lot, and the amount of rollover you'll be paying out, I think it's like £35 a day. So that's going to eat into your money very, very quickly. That's if you're on the negative side of the rollover, which the majority of the time, because retail traders have been taught the wrong information, they're never on the positive rollover side. So obviously the positive rollover is when the interest rate differentials are more positive for like AED in comparison to USD. So the broker is actually paying you. But most traders or most retail traders, they've been taught the wrong information. So you're on the negative side of the rollover each time. So if you think about how the brokers think, how they just want to take your money, you can clearly see it. They will give you all this leverage.
Yeah.
They will tell you to sell AED USD as a signal. So signals are a completely different
Yeah,
subject.
yeah.
As a signal. And then they know, well, we know, they'll think to themselves, this is how the brokers think, or from what I've researched. They'll say, well, the negative rollover at the moment for AED is by selling it. Okay, well, we're going to send out a signal to sell AED USD, and AED USD might be going up, but they want you to sell it because one, they want to take your money, and two, they want to take the rollover or the carry. So obviously, if you just now think about brokers, you have to think about them in a different perspective. You need a broker to trade. Like, you can't not trade without a broker.
Exactly.
But you have to understand that that what they want to do is just take your money. So use max 1 to 30 leverage for anything. Even if you get a stockbroker account, I'm not sure about the stockbroker's leverage because I don't really trade stocks, but in Forex especially, 1 to 30 leverage max. If you want that Excel spreadsheet, just DM me on Instagram and I'll send it to you. It's crazy. But obviously, with you on the retail side or on the professional side, seeing it from a different perspective is always a positive for teaching people.
Exactly. And you know what? I always say this to people as well. Don't over leverage. I always say this. The only way you can actually lose is by over leveraging or over trading.
100%.
I could place 3 to 4 trades a week and won't even push past that. Some people place 5 to 10 a day. That's over trading, right? And then they will always complain that I've tried to catch every move but I've still lost. And you've just done one trade and you've done better than me. And some people are trying to aim for 100 pips. For those of you guys who don't know what pips are, it's percentage in points. So every time price moves up by 1 point, we call it pips. So they try and go for, let's just say, 100 pips move, and they're not happy if it doesn't hit that 100 pip take profit, for instance. Whereas we'll be happy, even catching 25 pips on the positive side, as long as we know we've cleared it on the positive side rather than the negative side. We don't mind, those add up.
100%.
You've had some controversy with a few Instagram gurus and we won't mention any names anyway. Got nothing against anybody, but what do you advise other people when being approached by these
Instagram gurus? Is a very, very interesting topic for sure. If you're on Instagram right now, I could literally go on my story right now, flick through for about a minute, and I will see about 5 adverts on Forex trading, Forex signals.
These guys are always in my DMs as well. I just delete. I don't even reply. I don't even accept. Don't do nothing. I just delete whatever, man. I've seen too much of this over the years. I know what this is about. Delete. It's funny, but I know you get a kick out of trolling him as well.
I like trolling them. I find it funny. The thing is, their interest isn't to make you money. So they'll sell you this dream about giving you free signals for life, when in reality they send you a broker's link so they can get a kickback from the broker. But if you think about what the brokers want you to do, they want you to lose money. So the broker's bitch, i.e. the Instagram guru, their aim is not to make you money because they won't get paid. So they'll tell you some BS story about how they started from nothing, and it's always the same story. You'll start from nothing and now they're a 6-figure trader within a year, and they're going on holidays and driving sports cars everywhere. You see it everywhere.
We see it everywhere, we see it all the time, and it's kind of called the rented lifestyle. They have to always make that kind of money, get more people on board so the brokers pay them out. And keep using that money rather than investing it in the right places. They have to keep spending on their image, for instance, and all the time they always have to keep spending on the image just to keep that image high, so other people and this all comes back down to personal issues as well. It's like insecurity. Are these people kind of insecure in a certain way? Is it because they actually aren't where they want to be, so are they showing a different kind of lifestyle to other people that are actually believing it, that they are at the place where they should be, but deep in themselves they aren't. Even like cameraman, myself, have experienced this so many times, haven't we? We've experienced this so many times where people have to keep pumping in money, and these are basically, they're not traders, they're marketers.
100%.
Aren't they?
100%.
They're marketers, and they have to keep up that image. Now, you know, we see this all the time in retail, especially. You will never see this in terms of professional. You know, professionals rather go for asset building rather than keeping other people happy. They want to keep themselves happy, you know, for instance, and they want to make sure that they're set up. So basically their priorities are in the right place, and that's how you can tell, you know, the difference between a clown and a proper person. A genuine person is, are their views, are their priorities in the right places? And now obviously being in this industry for quite some time, reading, you know, people over and over again over the years, I've started to pick up on these things, and to me, obviously, I see it all the time. I just go on my day still get on my day, don't care what everyone's up to. They'll learn their lessons obviously as time goes along, but everyone learns their lessons at different times.
I think that you need to learn your lesson, because if you don't learn it, then when it hits you, it'll hit you like a train.
Could be bad.
So obviously when I see all these people on Instagram promoting stuff, I always get sent a profile a day of these so-called gurus who's promoting a lifestyle. What I always tell people is check the FCA website and see if they're regulated. If they aren't regulated by the FCA on the website, maybe they're on an umbrella regulation, so you need to ask them, can you provide me with the documentation to say you are who you say you are, and you are actually competent in your field? And if they can't provide you with that, then don't go with them at all.
Exactly. Some people also, I've had this happen to me as well. So a few years ago I used to publish my FX books live. They've been copied. People are claiming it to be their own. You know, results I used to put up quite a bit. I don't put up any results anymore. They get copied. People are saying, these are their own, and they're selling it on, you know, to vulnerable people who just really want to get a piece of the pie, genuinely as well, want to change their life situation, but they're being sold by, you know, this dream and these stories, which is kind of wrong anyway. But you know, moving forward, we also just recently had an Apple event.
Love it.
So those of you who don't know, Mark is a big Apple man. Give us a bit of insight into your story in Apple. You actually used to work as a genius.
I mean, I was a technical specialist, which is one level below genius because I wasn't actually full-time. I worked at the Stratford Apple store. I was a technical specialist, so basically we worked on all products apart from Macs. Obviously, to be a genius, you have to be working there full-time, and obviously I just finished college, so I was 18, and obviously I was working at Apple before I went to university. And obviously, to be honest with you, that was the only job I ever had that when I woke up I was very happy to go to, because I don't know what it was about.
It must have been fun.
It was very fun.
It looks
I was working there basically full-time hours, but my contract wasn't full-time. But it's just the environment, it's the managers as well, and it's the people. So obviously the Apple event was an interesting one. I obviously ordered the new MacBook based on, obviously, because mine is a 2017 model now. So obviously the MacBook Pro, I got the MacBook Pro 2017 with 8 gigs of RAM. Obviously I don't need 16 because I'm not doing music and photo editing, so I have to overspend. And obviously because they released Apple Silicon, so basically what that means is the chip inside this is all separate. So basically it needs to communicate, so obviously between each other in order for it to produce something. And obviously Apple Silicon is just one chip that has all of that into just one. So now it's so much more quicker
and faster and more efficient
and more power efficient as well. This eats my battery like crazy. Even when I'm not even doing anything, when I'm on Excel or the charts or in Safari, it will literally last me about 7 hours. So what they're claiming now to be 17 hours to 20 hours is crazy. Obviously that's one of the big reasons why I bought it. It's because this sounds like a PS4, so it's loud as hell. And it's just, I mean, it's a great laptop for sure for anyone, but if you're doing very big like editing, I would definitely upgrade to something more powerful in the Apple line anyway. I wouldn't recommend any Windows.
Music, like obviously I mainly use laptop for, we don't use much energy anyway when we're looking at charts and looking at prices, reading articles. But what I do quite a bit of is obviously architectural drawings.
Yeah.
And I have noticed every time I load up like AutoCAD, it starts to run slow.
Yeah,
it starts to run really slow. So I have to close up all the other things in the background, which I kind of need open. Like, I have an email tab in the background that's always open. Anytime I get a notification, I can quickly switch to the other tab. But these things, when I'm doing things like that, like designing and, and I can imagine other people are doing like editing stuff, photo editing. There's so many different things, professions that people use, music as well. People produce music. They all use MacBooks as well.
Yeah.
So we definitely do need the speed. We need the efficiency, and over time, or my laptop has slowed down now. Definitely over time, starting to run out of space as well.
So is mine, to be fair. I mean, mine I think is 128.
Yeah.
I think it's about 90, 100 at the moment.
Now everything's coming out in terabytes.
Yeah, I mean,
and they're just getting more compact and compact. Do you remember the first ever like USBs? Do you remember floppy disks?
Yeah.
Floppy disks used to only put on one picture. Used to only hold about 30 megabytes of data, 27 megabytes of data, and then done. Yeah. Nowadays we're getting like USBs the size of 500 gig.
It's just like that.
Exactly.
Just like that.
Very small, 500 gig USBs. I remember I bought a hard drive about 4 years ago. It was a 500 gig hard drive, and it was like this, probably the size of this mic. Yeah, coming up to our chins, for instance.
Yeah.
It was looked like a console, for instance. Yeah, but nowadays everything is getting more compact. Let's say Tesla batteries. Yeah, they'll be able to go on like 1 million miles that they are claiming.
Yeah.
Let's see, obviously, once they do produce those batteries into their cars, how long they do last. But they are claiming, that is the future of batteries. These batteries can go on for like 1 million miles.
I think they are, to be fair.
Before changing.
I think they are.
Yeah, I think they are well ahead of the battery game
100%.
compared to any car manufacturer. And now, even coming up to battery manufacturers, they're starting to compete with those. So they're not just a car maker now; they're starting to become, an energy producer as well,
100%,
an efficient energy producer. So, finally, moving forward, anything else, by the way, on the Apple event?
I mean, for those, obviously, if you're looking to get a very powerful Mac, I definitely would recommend this year's. Obviously, if you're just going to use it for everyday use, and maybe you're not going to use it for maybe watching Netflix or something, and you don't want to spend too much, you can probably get like 2018s, 2019s for pretty cheap now. I think you can probably buy them for about 900, which is relatively cheap in comparison to what you get. It's basically the same, but obviously now I'm getting it because it's a lot quicker. It's the battery life as well, and obviously I don't have a touch bar. But I definitely would recommend getting it if your laptop's relatively old, for sure.
By the way, any Apple advice I always go to Mark for. He knows his stuff inside out, and obviously even though he's left Apple, he still keeps up to date with things, because technology, like, we're in 2020 now. The only way we're going to move forward is with a technological future. Payments are going futuristic, money's going futuristic. We're coming into a cashless society now. So everything is going towards technology. We need technology in our lives at some point every single day without fail. Like if you kind of aren't now computer literate, you've kind of had it. There's only so far you can go and succeed. Until you decide to give up, for instance, and say, well, if you're rich enough, like Trump, you can hire somebody to do all your computing work for you, or he might send this tweet out, because I'm angry. That's probably what he does. I've never seen him sitting on his phone tweeting. He probably has someone doing it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or he's voice noting them or something. Yeah. Or like walkie talking. Wait, tweet this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
they're
the
doing it.
market will just go boom.
Yeah.
Literally.
Exactly. So.
So obviously,
yeah.
I think volatility in USD will be crushed now.
Yeah.
Because obviously Trump isn't going to be tweeting. That's not going to. Well, he will be tweeting, but obviously it's not going to have an impact as it did now.
Nah,
Biden, I
definitely
don't
not.
think uses Twitter as much. So volatility is just going to get crushed even more.
Yeah. So we'll see a slowdown in the rate of USD buyers and sellers as well.
Yeah.
Not just buyers, but in total volume buying and selling into USD should decrease now
Yeah.
over time. Especially during this COVID crisis as well, we should see. Well, right now is an increase, all because of the vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're going to mention the vaccine right now, and there has been released, I think, over Sunday and Monday, that there was a company called PFIZER, yeah, which is one of the top 500 companies in the US, pretty much the world, as US stocks and companies are the biggest in the world. So I would say the world, yeah, one of the top 500 companies in the world have now come up with a vaccine that they are saying is 90% successful. Now, one question, there are a few questions that have arisen, in fact, with myself.
Yeah.
Why hasn't this been mentioned over the last 6 months? Why have we never heard of this company
Yeah.
in our lives?
I never heard of it until.
Why have we not heard of a testing phase with this company? Apparently, they've tested so many hundreds and thousands of people and got a 90% success rate out of it. Why have we never heard of it until Sunday?
Even on social media.
Even on
I've not
social
even seen
media,
anything.
exactly, nothing to do with it. But one interesting thing came up to me today, yeah, which made me think very, very different about this company.
Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of the media are pushing this company. They're saying this is going to be very successful, but they aren't actually questioning the facts behind this company. So we're going to just play a quick 5-minute video.
The vaccine is coming out soon. I won't be talking about it, but I will tell you about the company behind it.
News just out. Pfizer says it could be ready to apply for emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine candidate by late November.
A gradual plan will be implemented to persuade and incentivize people to take the vaccine and put restrictions on people that don't, along with shaming campaigns. Some will say that this is conspiracy theory, so let's just stick to the facts. What I'm about to tell you is only 20% of their rap sheet, otherwise this video would be hours long, but you can go to our website where you can see the full list. Pfizer received the biggest criminal fine in US history as part of a $2.3 billion settlement with federal prosecutors for mispromoting medicines and for paying kickbacks to compliant doctors. Pfizer pleaded guilty to misbranding the painkiller Bextra by promoting the drug for uses that were not approved by medical regulators. In the 90s, they were involved in defective heart valves that led to the deaths of more than 100 people. The company had deliberately misled regulators about the hazards. The company agreed to pay $10.75 million to settle Justice Department charges. Pfizer also had a class action suit with a $60 million settlement over Resolin, diabetes medication, that resulted in patients dying from acute liver failure, said to be caused by the drug. In the UK, they have been fined nearly £90 million by the UK's competition watchdog for unfair pricing to the NHS after hiking up the cost of an anti-epilepsy drug by 2,500%, charging the taxpayer an extra £48 million than the actual price, which is $2 million per year. In 2004, Pfizer's subsidiary agreed to pay $430 million to resolve criminal charges that it paid physicians to prescribe its epilepsy drug, Neurontin, to patients with ailments for which the medication was not approved. In 2010, a federal jury found that Pfizer committed racketeering fraud in its marketing of the drug. Pfizer disclosed that during a 6-month period the previous year, it had paid $20 million to some 4,500 doctors and other medical professionals for speaking on the company's behalf. In 2012, the US Securities and Exchange Commission announced that it had reached a $45 million settlement with Pfizer to resolve charges that its subsidiaries had bribed overseas doctors and other healthcare professionals to increase foreign sales. Pfizer was sued in a US federal court by Nigerian families who accused the company of testing a dangerous new antibiotic called Trovan on children without parents' consent and using their children as human guinea pigs. A panel of medical experts concluded that Pfizer had violated international law, and the company agreed to pay $75 million to settle the lawsuits in Nigerian courts. The US case was settled for an undisclosed amount. Amid widespread criticism of high pricing for poor countries, and in particular AIDS medications, Pfizer offered to donate a 2-year supply of its drug, Diflucan, worth $50 million to the South African government. Yet in 2003, Pfizer backed away from the company's plan to license its AIDS drug for low-cost distribution in poor countries. The list goes on. I don't want to bore you with it. But ask yourself, if it was a car manufacturer, would you buy a car from them?
We plan to honor our history, and we will only bring to the world a vaccine that has been proven safe and efficacious.
If Pfizer is trustworthy enough to be given one of the keys to vaccinate the population with something that was knocked up in a few months, and with such a track record for safety and ethics, I know what I think. Do you?
So, you guys have just watched that video with us. Let us know what you think in the comments box below. But, you know, there's many questions that we can raise right here. Firstly, how did a vaccine get produced within a couple of months? All this testing done, when it usually takes about 3 years just to pass the stages of a vaccination. Yeah, I know obviously we are in a bit of a crisis and we are desperate for this, right? But how can they trust that process just taking place over the last 2 months? Yeah, over a couple of months they've produced something that is supposed to be changing lives or saving lives. Yeah, like what that video said. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but just looking at the facts, I personally
wouldn't. I personally wouldn't.
At least we agree on another thing right there. You know, looking at the facts, like, it's crazy. This company has been fined one of the biggest medical financial settlements in the world of all time. Yeah, 93 billion was it? 93 billion or 93 million, something along. It is definitely in the billions. Yeah, that is a very, very big number. Now, another question arises: how is this company even allowed to make this vaccine? Yeah, why are they not putting another more credible company in front of this vaccine? Yeah, why aren't they funding up their own NHS service? Yeah, for instance, or like Imperial College, or in these universities that do deep research into finding cures for different things. Why aren't they pumping that money into there instead? Is there some kind of ulterior motive? Another thing that man mentioned was that if you don't have the vaccine, you will kind of be singled out. Yeah, meaning that you'll be put on a flight that has supposedly people with no vaccines, so only you guys can get infected, and the rest of the people of the population who are taking the same flight don't get infected.
That's mad.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Now that's causing a split in society. What do you think of this whole thing? And
I think there's some sort of back end story that they're trying to achieve. I think for me personally, just by even watching it, I think what they're going to do, don't quote me on it, is this vaccine may not work as well as it should, or it may cause side effects, and then Pfizer will somehow have the antibiotic for it or whatever to fix it, which will make them more money, I think. So I think there's some sort of backstory behind the way they're thinking. Obviously, with all of the fines they've had, I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen, to be honest with you. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. So I think there's some kind of back-end motive for them to make more money, because at the end of the day, they are a business, but they're not very credible based on their history. Yeah, so I think there's some sort of thing they're planning to do. Yeah,
and this is, absolutely, this is something that they don't really show people. Yeah, they hide these. These are facts, by the way. This is not anyone's opinion. These are straight facts. This is not a conspiracy theory either. We're only just stating the facts right here. Yeah, and what could happen moving forward. So just based on all the facts, I definitely would not trust this company, because, like you said, they could be producing something. Firstly, what they've known for is they made a narcolepsy tablet, or something along those lines. So they made something to cure narcolepsy, which is a sleeping disorder. and they bumped up the price by I think it was like 1,000%. Yeah. Now, obviously, 2,000%. That is absolutely crazy. So 2,000% increase in margins. Obviously, clearly, like they're not in it just to save people's lives. Yeah. There is some kind of ulterior monetary gain that they are getting out of this, right? And at the end of the day, they are a business. They're one of the top, companies on the Fortune 500 list. In the world. How are they still on this list in the first place? Why have their license not been taken off them? After all the history that they have been through. It's not just one case, with straight facts as well. It's like adding up to about 7-8 cases. This is just of the ones that we know. What about the cases that we don't know? That they've been through, the cases where they've been fined multiple, on different scenarios. Why aren't any of this being looked at? Why isn't any of this, being put out there to the public? The media obviously only want you to see some things, but that's obviously what we're here for as well. We'll show you everything as well behind it. So this should be another point to you guys as well. Don't just believe every single thing you see without doing your own research as well. Everybody is kind of good at judging some sort of character or judging for their own selves. We live in a free country. We should be able to get our own decisions. It should not be able to be forced upon us. So what do you think of that?
I mean, by them forcing it, it's just going to create a split, as you said, in society. I think people with the vaccine will resent the people without, and there's just going to be a big civil split between people. People won't mix with others that don't have the vaccine, and maybe people without the vaccine won't mix with people with it. But I think it'll be more the other way around, if anything. And this will just create a massive split, I think, personally.
It will. Like, another thing that was brought up earlier as well is they're now bringing in cameras, CCTV cameras, that are looking for people who are not socially distancing. Now, around the people that, are just walking by who don't have a vaccine, it's going to show up as red.
Wow.
So you would be targeted whether you've been cured or not, whether you're immune or not. They don't care. If you don't have a vaccine, you'll show up as red. And if you're seen walking into a crowd, and not socially distancing further than 1 to 2 meters, you will get fined. And that's another thing they're saying that could take place and is coming on board as well. As they bring these cameras out, they will know who has the vaccine through facial recognition, who doesn't.
That's great.
And if you have had the vaccine, obviously you're the only person who is allowed to be closer than 1 to 2 meters, which is wrong. The person may have had the weakest immune system on the planet, but they're still allowed to not socially distance. So it is very wrong. What I do believe as well. I think, you should just build immunity to it. Eventually, let's just all stick together, kill this virus off. Just, stay indoors, stay safe, socially distance, hand sanitize everywhere. Just stay hygienic, and we'll kill it off together. As discussed at the beginning of the year by our Prime Minister Boris Johnson and everybody who was teaming up, WHO for instance as well, World Health Organization. They were saying the easiest way to get rid of this is just everyone act together. We don't need to start vaccinating people. It can be killed off itself. I know people who have had COVID, they haven't died. And they haven't suffered heavily either. It's not as bad as what they were saying it should have been. But anything else before obviously we've wrapped this up and go on to the next one?
I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what their intentions are, and obviously what the government will suggest. Like, again, if they will go by what PFIZER wants, and they say that we can't go on the same flights, or we're not allowed to do certain stuff at certain times, maybe they might introduce curfews for people who hasn't got the vaccine, and then I think that would cause massive riots, which will just be...
It is. You can't force the population to take something that they don't want to take. Like you said, there could be side effects. They're going to produce an antibiotic for those side effects and make even more money on those. And just before we go, just want to mention that, if you just keep up to your health and wellness industry is a very big industry. But not enough people are, going into and keeping up with their health. but one industry that is slightly a bit bigger than the health and wellness industry, even though it's in the multi-millions and billions per year, is the sickness industry, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is,
That's why pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals.
They make unbelievable.
I know a pharmacist who has a Lambo, BMW M8, killing it.
They get a lot of money.
Killing it right now. So once again, thank you all for plugging into another Capital Convos episode. It has been very, very interesting with myself and Mark. But what I want you guys to do especially is type in the comments box below, and we will keep an eye on every single comment that does come by. What your views are on this vaccine by Pfizer. I've just shown you a video that is about 5 minutes long, and obviously if you did take the time out to watch it, well done. You are slightly more educated than you were before watching this, and it is just based on facts. So put the facts together and tell me, or tell us in fact, what you guys think in the comments box below, and also what we should mention on the next episode that is coming out next week. So thank you for plugging in. That's myself and Mark. Take care. Catch you guys in the next session.